In what do you delight? In life, everybody wants to delight in. What is it in life that we delight from? So, we can delight in the material world, which no doubt we do. But as we know, it's fleeting. It's here this moment and gone the next. We delight in a vacation. But how long does vacation last? Not 52 weeks, a year. We delight in a beautiful melody. I heard a melody yesterday, and it's still with me. Delighting in it. It comes at times, and it goes at other times. But it's, has more of a permanence. And then, of course, there's delighting in what we're doing right now. Learning Torah. Learning Torah, and specifically learning Chassidus, learning Tanya. Delighting. But even that can be fleeting. You could take the teachings with you, just like the melody you can take with you, and you can sing it any time. Right? You can't take the taste of the apple and have it all the time. You can't have the pleasure and the delight in materiality at all times. But a melody you could. The teachings of Torah you could. However, even that is up and down. Because one moment I'm thinking the melody, I'm singing the melody, another moment I'm not. One moment we're learning Tanya and we're engaged in it, but then afterwards we lose it. We lose it. Welcome to Tanya today. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you for Chabad Zich and Kadeshim in Montreal, Canada, where it's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. We conclude today chapter 9. Chapter 9 in one word is Milchama, battle. It's a battle. Life's a battle. Never promised you a rose garden. Not to be living on Easy Street. When you're living on Easy Street, you know you're on the wrong street. When you know you're having a challenge and you recognize that there are two combatants in the ring wrestling, I have in me my first responder is my animal soul that just wants to do what's pleasurable and easy, that I can have an easy time at whatever the challenge is. So I recognize that that is one side in the ring. But then comes the other thought and the others that's battling. And that's my divine soul. It's too is battling within me. The fact that I recognize that in my life means I'm living. If I don't have that in my life, we can be rest assured we ain't alive, at least spiritually. We might be going through the motions of life. We might be just pushing through, waiting for the next sweet thing to eat, waiting for the next vacation, maybe even waiting for the next Tanya class. But that's not sufficient. Because that means in between, where are we? What are we delighting in? So this battle, the godly soul wants to defeat the animal soul with its agenda, and that the delight of, or the rather the, as the metaphor the Alter Rebbe gave, of a king, two kings are battling over a city, and each one wants to control the city. So we have here two combatants. We have the godly soul and the animal soul, and each one wants to win over. The city is me, the person, my body, my thoughts, my speech, and my actions. My brain capacity, my feelings, my love, my awe/reverence. So the divine soul wants to get that the body should surrender to the divine will, and not even just surrender, but to become a merkava, a chariot for the divine. What does it mean, a chariot for the divine? So the Alter Rebbe says in today's teachings that the ultimate that the divine soul wants to bring is that we should have what's called ava b'tainugim, a delightful love in God. Not a delightful love merely in Tanya, but the godliness in Tanya. It's different than the wisdom of Tanya. Different than, being uplifted in the moment from its teachings. But in the godly, experiencing delighting in godliness. And the truth is, this is a foretaste of the world to come, that only the righteous really have that today. So, whereas we might delight in doing good and doing mitzvahs and studying Torah, and we have our ups, but then we have our downs because we're delighting in a material thing and so on. The righteous, they're delighting in the divine itself. The divine itself is constant by them. And that will be in the times to come, when Mashiach comes. The righteous, they are there now. And that's what the divine soul wants to bring a person to, ultimately, right? From level to level. Meaning that we delight in our brain, in the wisdom and the intelligence of our perceiving and knowing God. Now, that will be commensurate with everybody according to what they're capable of. How much can you know? Whatever you can know God. But you're delighting in the knowing of God so you can get closer to God. Right? And what's delight? Delight is the quality of water, right? Right? Because what does water do? It brings delight to this world. Not only when you're thirsty, you drink water, it brings you delight. What does water do? It makes things grow that bring delight, right? Material delight to the individual. What does this delight in God mean? That you transform the delight of the desire and the lust that the animal soul and the body has for things outside of the divine, right? Meaning the pleasure in and of itself for itself, right? And you transform that for a delight in God. Right? A delight in God. So this is the emotion that the divine soul wants to bring us to. And not just an emotion of the love of God, delighting in Him, right? But also all of the other emotions that the soul has. Right? Love and awe are the two basic emotions, but there's, Tiferes, Netzach, Hod, Yesod, Malchus, Yesod, right? And then, after there is that emotion towards God, what does an emotion do? What does that lead a person to? Well, the thought. Excuse me. You think about the things that you have a strong emotion towards, right? If you have no emotion towards Mississippi, you're never thinking about Mississippi because you never went to Mississippi. You never had an experience in Mississippi, good or bad. You had nothing, so you're not thinking about Mississippi. What's the proof? Did anybody think about Mississippi before I said the word Mississippi? No. Right? Now you might think about it a whole day.
I'll be spelling it M-I-S-S-I-S-S-I.
Right? But we think about the things that we have a strong feeling towards. So if we have a strong feeling and a delight in God, then of course we're going to be thinking about godly things. And then not only we think about godly things, right, and it will be constant. It will be constant, that thinking, right, because there's the delight in it. And then that will bring to about obviously speaking in the words of Torah constantly, that our mouth will never cease from the study, because you talk about the things that you think about. You think about the things that you have a strong feeling towards. So if the divine soul has brought you to a strong feeling of delighting, which is the strongest feeling, is delight in divinity, then it'll bring you to think. Then it'll bring you to speak. And of course, and it'll bring you to the faculty of action, that your hands and the rest of your organs of your being will then become garments for the divine soul to act for God. Right? Now, what's important over here, from the divine soul's perspective, it starts with, knowing God, that brings to the delight and the feeling towards God on this highest level, right? On this highest level, that then brings you to thinking, speaking, and doing for God. That's in this optimal manner of engaging in the battle. We will learn later on that there's not always does it start that way, because that's in the optimal manner of the mind to the heart, to thought, speech, and action, garments of the soul. But we will find, sometimes it'll come from the action itself. But where this is now chapter 9 through 17, that we're going through the long way meaning that we're going through the mind bringing to the heart, ultimately delighting in God, and from that delight, then your thoughts and conversation, your actions will be divine ones, right? This is what the divine soul, in its battle, in the ring of life against the animal soul, wants to accomplish. Now, what does the animal soul want to do? Complete opposite. It wants to have you desire klipa, not divine, not divinity, but you desire klipa. You desire the shell, not what's inside the shell, the divinity, the outer appearance, right? Therefore, we're attracted to what outwardly are attractive people. We eat with our eyes. That looks so delicious. We don't eat with our stomachs, right? Why? Because we're attracted to the klipa, the externality of things. That's what the animal soul wants to accomplish in us when it's battling. Now, what's the whole point? What's the whole point over here? Concludes the Alter Rebbe, chapter 9. Beautiful thought. Beautiful metaphor from the Zohar. All of this struggle ultimately is for the benefit, my benefit, for our benefit. How do we understand that? Whoa, it sounds like a big struggle over here. God, why do you make it so difficult? So the Zohar says like this: the king, who in the analog is God Almighty, had his son, the crown prince, who was raised in the castle of the king, in the palace, and of course knows nothing but kingly ways. But is he really made out of what he's supposed to? Is he really, kingly quality, or is it just, how are you going to find out? Well, you got to put the king to test. And of course, who's the king? Our divine soul. The king is God, and the crown prince is our divine soul. It's our divine soul. So the divine soul is put to the test, right? By the way, it's not just the divine. Actually, the crown prince is the person. In this metaphor over here, the Zohar means the Jew. But ultimately, every human being. But in the metaphor is the Jew. And God puts it to the test, right? How do you test the crown prince? Well, the king hires the most beautiful, charming woman of the night, a harlot, to seduce the crown prince. And that way we'll know, is the crown prince really made out of the moral fiber of the way he was raised in the palace of the king? Is the Jew really going to be that light, which will be ultimately a light unto the nations, but will be that light for themselves, keeping their moral integrity? Or are we going to be going for the klipa, the outer shell, the woman of the night who's so beautiful and attractive? Who's the woman of the night? Who's this harlot? It's our evil inclination, right? The other one in the ring. Our evil inclination that wants to win us over. Now, she is dutiful to the king, but she knows the game plan. But she's dutiful to the king and got to fulfill what the king wants, and does it to the best of her capability. And what's the whole point? That the crown prince should win the battle, overcome the temptation, overcome and not allow that klipa, the outer shell of what you see, is not what you get. Right? There's something more. If it's what you see is what you get, so then you're going to go for what you see. But if you recognize that that's not what you get, that that's really just the challenge in life, that what we are perceiving is not really the whole story, then what's going to happen? We're going to double down. We're going to find the power from within. We're going to fight the battle. And guess what? We're going to win. Because the crown prince, the Jew, is going to do what the Jew has to do. And not allow the animal inclination, the body's agenda, to overcome us, take us over. And that's its whole point. We'll show the true strength of who and what we are. Okay, we have any questions? What's it worth if you cannot win? Mordechai. What do you mean, what's it worth? Of course you can win. What if it's not your Yetzer Hara, so to say? Why do you say that? I don't know what you mean by that, Mordechai. That itself sounds like the Yetzer Hara to me. To say that you can't win life's battle, that's the Yetzer Hara, that's evil inclination talking to make you feel like you're a loser. You're not a loser. Don't be a loser. A loser isn't someone who can't make $1 million. A loser is someone who doesn't fight the battle every day and recognize that they can overcome. That's the loser. None of us are losers. Only when we recognize that we've been empowered, that we can win. Because ultimately, that's God's point. He didn't do this to watch a show. He did this because he wants to bring out the greatness in us. And the only way we're going to do that is when we're put to the test, when we're put to the challenge. It's not about the test. It's not about getting the points over here. It's not about points, right? It's not about getting a good score. It's about we fulfilling the purpose we were created for, to overcome the challenges in life, to overcome ourselves and the animal instinct that we have, that we cannot win life's battle on a daily basis. We can. Now, the righteous always do. Even the Beinoni will always win the battle. Right? The righteous has won the battle. Beinoni is winning the battle. We are BITs, Beinoni in training. Are we always going to win? We hope so. But not necessarily so. Right? Not necessarily so. But just because we don't always win doesn't mean we can't always win. The first thing we need to know, we can always win. And therefore, with that notion, that gives us one step above on how we can win on a daily basis. And even if we do lose a battle, we don't lose the war. Thank you, Mordechai.
Forgiveness.
It's not about forgiveness. That's not the point here. Do we, Eric is asking, do we sometimes have to lose in order to go higher? Very good, Erica. We don't have to lose in order to go higher. But you know what? Sometimes God might make it happen that brings us down, that we lose in the moment in order that we should go higher. That's true. We shouldn't look at it that we have to lose. No, we have to win. But sometimes you're going to lose. Sometimes you're going to lose. Right? God made it happen in such a way, put you in such a situation, it seems like, right, you lost. So God made that happen, or kind of pushed in that direction. You know why? In order that what comes out of it will be something greater. And that's the concept of tshuva. That's tshuva. But that's not the point right now. We're not on the tshuva mode over here, right? Where that's the comeback. That absolutely there is that, right? But that's not the what our mind should be full of now. Oh, I can always do tshuva, so okay, the harlot won. I can do tshuva. Yeah, that's true, but that's not the point here. Because guess what? The harlot comes back right after. Right? The losing doesn't mean the harlot doesn't come back. Comes back now to have to defeat you even more. Right? Dylan has a question. Vicky, is there sometimes a bit of a disguise that is dressed in light? Yeah, oh, very good, Vicky. Absolutely. Yeah, sometimes it's, yes. Actually, thank you, Vicky. I'll tell you. For the hoodlum kid, right, the 20-year-old hoodlum, right, doing right from wrong and not allowing the evil in the person it's going to be not so many places because that person's really right. So the choices between being a thief, which we're learning at Rambam now, which we're going to continue today shortly, right? The difference between being a thief and not a thief, that choice is more obvious, right? Even though maybe for the thief it's not so obvious, but for us looking at it, it's very obvious. But when you are now not a thief, right? The more you engage in this battle, and the more you defeat the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, the more deceptive it becomes, the evil inclination. The more you grow, the more the nuance between right and wrong, between listening to your godly soul and not your animal soul, will be very, very disguised and very deceptive. So you can have a animal soul, a Yetzer Hara that's Hasidic with a black cat, a kapata, and so on, can be in a guise of doing something holy. When in the end, it's really a Yetzer Hara talking. That's when it becomes much more tricky. What's necessary? The bittul that the person has. Right? Just because you do mitzvahs doesn't mean it's not your Yetzer Hara that is encouraging you to do it. Could be. Very much so. So yes, thank you. Kevin, is it good to discover the reason for the loss? Yes, absolutely. So that way you won't, hopefully you won't lose. When you understand why you lost, then, that will help you for next time to defeat. Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Very good. Okay. I don't see any other questions. Okay. Yeah, we just did that. All right, folks. Rambam is coming up now. Please join us on Zoom or on Facebook, Chabad ZK. And a reminder, tonight, 6:30, there will be Torah Studies class here in Chabad Zichrei, 6:30, and online. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zichrei in Kadesh, Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. Have an amazing, wonderful day.